Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name's Nicole and here on We Mama I do lots of motherhood, cleaning, lifestyle and organisational kind of videos. So if you like those kind of videos, I would love it if you could stick around and subscribe. It would really help to support and grow my little channel. So I am currently pregnant with my second baby. I've been doing lots of updates and packing for the baby hospital bag, my hospital bag videos. But with my first baby, I only started this YouTube channel when he was 3 months old. So obviously I didn't document anything up towards his birth or afterwards. So as this baby, my current baby, is quite prominent on this channel where I'm doing the pregnancy updates, obviously going to be doing like a birth story, maybe even a labour story. I thought before I do that, I may as well upload my birth story for my first little one. So my little boy will now just be turning 19 months old. He is called Didier. He's full of life, full of energy, running around everywhere. Thought I would just kind of tell you all about him, how, when, where, what happened with my pregnancy with him. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. This is Didier's birth story. First of all, yeah, we had our midwife appointment and then we got married. Probably like I think it was the 22nd of June, we went for our first scan and yeah, it was a Friday, when she was doing the scan, obviously like we both broke down in the scan and she said, "Oh, you're 12 weeks exactly today." And we were like, what? So I'd already been 3 months pregnant and had no idea. That will still be one of the biggest shocks of my entire life. So after that dating scan, they dated me for the 4th of January 2019. Everything went fine throughout my pregnancy. I had a relatively small bump and I did have to go for a lot of growth scans, same as this time round. My little baby was measuring quite small, and we also, again, same as this time round, decided to keep it a surprise. We didn't really want to know the gender. Fast forward to January for my whole birth story. On New Year's Day, I walked past some raspberry leaf tea on the shelf and I just thought, do you know what? I'm gonna go for it. I'm just gonna try some. I made my first cup at around 5 o'clock on New Year's Day. And then I had another cup about an hour later and then another cup about an hour after that. And all of a sudden at around 10 o'clock we were sat watching a film on the sofa. I think it was Bird Box. It was a really big hyped up Netflix thing at the time. All of a sudden at 10 past 10 my waters broke. I just felt water trickling down and I was like, oh my god. It is go time. It is go time. Baby is coming. Throughout the day and maybe New Year's Eve as well, I think I did lose my mucus plug, which again, TMI, sorry, but it wasn't a lot. I think I expected it to be a whole big bit of this mucus plug, but I didn't. I think I just got a little bits of it throughout the day. So I called the hospital and I was like, I think my waters have broken. I only live 10 minutes away down the road from the hospital. So they said, oh, come into the clinic and we'll have a little look and see if they actually have broken. So at this point, I didn't really know what the protocol was. So I remember just grabbing all of our bags, my husband's bag, baby bag, my bag, and snack bag, most important. Got ready to go to the hospital, we ordered a taxi. Then literally within 10 minutes of my waters breaking, my contractions started. And oh boy, did I know that they were contractions. They hurt. I kept getting all the little niggles throughout my pregnancy and I was like, oh my god, is that a contraction? Is that a Braxton Hicks contraction? And you just never kind of know. So when this contraction hit, I was like, my god, that is a contraction. That is what it feels like. So I was getting them quite frequently. I started timing them on my phone. We ended up at the hospital at around 11 and we literally just got shipped into a room. They put a belt around my belly, measuring the heartbeat. I think they did have a little sweep at this point just to see. And they confirmed that my waters had broke. Then they left me for a little bit more. I can't remember at this point why I was being left so often. I think it was to check heartbeats, check certain things. So I think we were there for 3 hours in this room, which I'm pretty sure was the antenatal clinic. Then they came back, they said that everything's fine. I remember having everything wrapped around my belly and just going through these contractions and them really hurting. They said, everything's fine, your water's broken. My birth plan was to have a water birth. and she said, we're gonna, you're not in labour yet, so what we'll do, we'll send you home. If you go into labour at home, obviously the contractions start getting worse, more painful. You come back in, and obviously you can give birth at hospital, but they were like, if that doesn't kind of happen, you'll have to be induced, because obviously with your waters broken, you're gonna get all sorts of infections coming in, and obviously they don't want that. So she said, we can induce you, and we can do it at these 2 different times. I didn't know anything really about being induced, but I remember saying I'd rather have 5 o'clock because I just want to get it kind of over and done with. I want to meet my baby. So we took all our bags back out, we went back home, and I basically had these contractions all throughout the night. So they were just like usual painful contractions. Woke up in the day and they were just getting worse and worse. I remember taking different painkillers. I think that's what they recommended to do. And then my husband went out and bought some hot water bottles. I remember lying in bed and having a hot water bottle on my front of my stomach, on my back. I think that's where it hurt the most, was all in my lower back. And then obviously nothing kind of happened really. They weren't interested in the contraction timings. I think I just started doing that anyway because of what I'd seen it in vlogs and films. And when I was like, oh yeah, I'm having them this time apart, they were like, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. So that kind of threw me off a bit. And then 5 o'clock came around, so of course we packed all our bags up again and went straight back to the hospital at 5 o'clock. So I went back into the clinic, and I think I was there for about another 30-40 minutes, and she said, we're going to take you upstairs now. So I thought she meant the labour ward where I was going to go and have my baby. So we went upstairs, put me in a wheelchair, and when we got into our own room, and it had a little ensuite in there. And by this point, the contractions were starting to get so painful I couldn't speak. I didn't know what was going on. I've just found all of these in my hospital notes, and it's all about the induction. And I'm pretty sure I remember her giving these to me at this point. And I think my husband read through them, but it's just basically all to do with the induction of labour. And I've not read through these, I didn't know anything about it. So I think they gave these to me about 10 minutes before I actually had a pessary. So that's really unhelpful, because at this point I couldn't focus on anything. I was in so much pain. I remember lying in the bed, and once again they hooked me up to a machine. I think I was wrapped up, all my belly was wrapped up in all these wires for I don't know, anything from about an hour. And this is when, and at 6 o'clock, that's when they induced me, and I had a pessary, inserted, and they said, there we go, you're gonna wait for 6 hours now and see what's going on. So of course, again, it's my fault because I didn't kind of research into it, I guess, but I was like, 6 hours, like nothing's gonna happen now for 6 hours. I was expecting to give birth in 6 hours. How naive. So after that, then I remember her measuring me and to see how dilated I was, and she was like, you're not even half a centimetre dilated. And this was just after 6 o'clock, I think, and I was like, what? So she brought in one of the birthing balls for me. I had actually not used one throughout my pregnancy. I just kind of got on with it, if I'm honest. I didn't really take much advice or anything really. I didn't really look into it too much. Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, so I started bouncing on a ball in this hospital room, and it was the worst thing I could have done. They all said, it gets the baby moving, it really helps you out. Well, every time I bounced, my waters would go again. So I would literally pee all over this ball, and the pain was so intense in my lower back that, of course, every time I soaked myself, I'd have to go into the bathroom and sit down and try for a wee again. It was just such a weird, painful time, and I can't remember anything. I remember my husband trying to talk to me, and I was like, like a beast, like, don't come near me, don't talk to me. But I just remember constantly trying to bounce on this ball, and just having to waddle back and forwards to the bathroom. And then this wonderful woman came in and told me that I could have a bath. She was like, why don't you go and get in the bath if you're going to be here for a while? And I was like, that is beautiful, thank you. So across the hall from me was another bathroom. I just didn't, this time I'm going to be really on it, But I just assumed that might be where I was giving birth because I had the bath, I wanted a water birth. So I got in the bath and I was in there for probably about 5 hours. I downloaded Netflix on my phone and I watched Big Bang Theory whilst eating my snacks. I was having contractions and I was just sat there shoving jelly beans into my face. So I remember having contractions, riding them out in the bath with my jelly beans, and I remember ringing my family and telling them, you know, my waters are broken, I'm in the bathtub eating jelly beans and strawberry laces. I'm gonna pack all of that again, can't wait. Yeah, I remember finally getting out of the bath. Then the nurse knocked on the door and I got out of the bath, drained it, and I remember going back into the room with my husband. She's like, right, let me check you out, see how far you've gone. And this is where it starts to get a bit hazy for me. I can't, because nothing was written down, I've got no kind of notes or anything. I don't actually remember what happened. So I think around this point, I was expecting to be like 6-7 centimetres dilated. And I think I'm pretty sure I'd only just reached either 1 or 2 centimetres. And I remember being fuming like, what do you mean? I'm still so low. And they then explained to me, and at this point, obviously, my contractions were getting worse. I was in so much pain, and I just remember the lady saying to me, basically, look, you're not going to have a water birth. It's not possible. She did tell me the reasons, and I should really ask now, but I can't quite remember. But she said that I think it was something to do with precautions and things like that, but because I wasn't dilating, it just wasn't safe for me, maybe something to do with like infection. So I wasn't allowed my water birth. And she said to me, you know, what was your other option if you couldn't have a water birth? And I really should have researched it before. I think I just chose an epidural. She was like, right, we're gonna make preparations and go and like get you ready for your epidural. So I was like, yeah, fine, just get this baby out of me, I'm in so much pain. Next thing I know, they rock up with a wheelchair and they're like, right, we're gonna take you downstairs. And I freaked out so much because I already thought I was on the labour ward, and I still don't know what that ward was for, because I'd been in the antenatal clinic and this just must have been a ward for pregnant women. And she was like, we're going to take you downstairs. And I just thought she meant we're going to take you downstairs to have a C-section. I was in so much pain, couldn't comprehend what was going on. And I just had a meltdown. She was like, no, we're going to take you to the labour ward. And I remember being like, where am I? Am I not on the labour ward? So anyway, we packed up all our bags again and we went downstairs to the labour ward. And the first thing they did was take me to a bathroom. And they were like, you know, we're going to get you set up for an epidural. And of course I knew the basics of an epidural. I knew I'd be paralysed from like the top kind of waist down. I knew that I just wouldn't be able to get up and go for a wander and a wee. So I went to the toilet and I got changed into a nightdress at this point. It was like a t-shirt, something very similar to this from Primark, and like just into a nightie. So I remember then getting into bed and then setting me up with gas and air, and this is where it just got so much better for me, because that gas and air helped so much. First thing I did though was take a big deep breath of gas and air. The lady was trying to show me what to do, and I remember everything turning orange, you know, like a heat detector. Everything went orange, like all the people, and I literally remember being like, what is going on? And I think I even said to the midwife, I feel like I'm in Amsterdam right now. And she just like giggled and walked away. My husband is just like, oh God, why? So yeah. But anyway, that was really good. I remember starting to feel a bit better now that I'd had this gas in it. And it started to work. It definitely took the edge off of the pain. From there, I can remember them getting me to sign something to do with an epidural. She was talking to me, explaining it to me, but this was like the completely wrong time. They should have done that way before, because they should have shown me that paperwork before, even if I didn't end up having one, because I was so out of my mind, didn't know what was going on. So I remember just signing it and getting on with it, really. I then remember my midwife standing in front of me and she was filling out all this paperwork. And I remember saying, I'm really thirsty, because of course I've been having this Gassonet, and I don't think I'd brought a water bottle. I just bought Lucozade drinks, but I needed water. And I just remember asking her, I was like, can I have some water? And she was like filling it out, going, yeah, I'll get you some in a minute. And she never did. She never ever came back with water. And my husband would bring me the Lucozade. I really needed water to like quench the thirst. So this time I'm making sure that I'm bringing a water bottle. So I then remember having the epidural all put into me. I remember having the cannula put in. I hate needles. I'm not very good with needles. I remember having something going into my back, and when they said, you know, the epidural was going in, I just remember all this cold, like icy feeling, which is obviously the medication, going into like my arm and my back. And then I think a couple of minutes later, I remember not getting any feeling in my legs. But the worst thing that I remember for the whole of this labour was they put a monitor on my arm for my blood pressure, I think. And it was so tight. And because I was so hot and sticky and uncomfortable, all I can remember, even worse than the epidural and the pain, was this thing like tight around my arm. And one thing that I noticed, and what I wasn't expecting, I don't know if it's like my kind of way of dealing with the pain, but I just like had a block, a whole complete mental block, where nothing kind of registered. I was just focusing on the pain and trying to make myself work with it. So at this point, this is what I mean. I couldn't communicate with my husband to say, I'm thirsty, I need water. And there were lots of things that I couldn't remember, that I couldn't communicate what I needed. I was so uncomfortable, and I just couldn't get my words out to tell him that this is making me uncomfortable. After that, then I remember getting to probably about 4 hours into this, and I just remember breathing my way through it. My husband was traumatized, bless him. From about 12 o'clock, from about 1 o'clock maybe onwards until my baby was born, I can't really remember much of what happened, aside from being uncomfortable with that, obviously having the contractions and being thirsty. Literally, I can't quite remember what happened. And this got to the point, I just remember feeling so uncomfortable. If I like went this way or that way, I couldn't move. I remember if I went like this to get comfortable on my side, the whole of that side of my body would go numb. And I didn't quite realise that that's how an epidural worked, because obviously it's a bit like a ball, like a level meter. If you tilt, then it makes whatever side the medication is on numb. And this is a really, really poor way of describing it, but I couldn't obviously figure out and communicate to my husband why all this side was dead, like, and numb, and I couldn't move, and I was uncomfortable, getting pins and needles constantly. And then next thing I know, the nurse came over to me and she said, Nicole, it's been 6 hours. We need you to go to the toilet. You've not been to the toilet. And I remember being like, I've literally just gone for a wee. And they were like, no, that was 6 hours ago. And I remember freaking out then, like, what? And then when she mentioned that, it just kind of clicked that, yeah, I'm in pain because I'm dying for a wee. So she was like, we'll go out, what do you want to do? And I said, I need to try and go for a wee. They helped lift me up and put me in a chair on top of a little bucket, like a little paper plate bowl thing. And of course I had no feeling. I didn't know if I was weeing or not. So then I called her back in. I was like, I don't know if I'm weeing. And she said, the other thing we can do is give you a catheter. And I was just like, why didn't you say that in the first place? I don't even know if I can wee or not. So I ended up having a catheter, and that was glorious. I don't remember it being put in. I was just so out of it. Wasn't embarrassed, but I do remember that she was couldn't get over the amount of wee, because there was just a lot of wee. Kept filling up just bags of wee for her. It was great. After that, I can't quite remember what happened. I remember some of the midwives kept coming in and out. My husband was beside himself because obviously I was in so much pain. At this point, something was kind of happening. I think they realised that the epidural wasn't working as they had hoped. And I've got a bit of a funny thing, like if I have anaesthetic, I've got to have quite a high dose. Like if I'm going to have an operation on my teeth or something, like dentistry work, I've got to have quite a high dose for it to have an effect on me. And they kept topping up this epidural and nothing was happening. And in the end, I remember them saying that they were getting a consultant to come down and talk me through my options because something wasn't quite working. My husband can't really remember because he was just traumatised. I was so out of it, I can't remember. This is why this time I'm definitely bringing a notebook and getting them to write everything down. I remember saying, I feel like I need to push, and they were like, oh no, not yet. And they were like, we just need to wait for the doctor to come down. This is where it gets really embarrassing. The midwife came on shift and I recognised her. And it turns out that she is the mum of one of the children that I look after. You know, I've not said anything more than, oh, you know, how are you? Are you okay? Your daughter's been fine today at nursery, blah, blah. She wasn't my key child, didn't really speak too much to this mum. But I recognised it and I loved her little girl. And apparently, my husband tells me this, I can't remember, but apparently he was like, you're on gas and air, and he said, you just went, oh, I love you. I love your daughter. To this woman who's obviously getting all gloved up and, you know, sweeping me, having a feel. And I'm talking about her daughter as she is inserting her hand into me. And she's literally looking at me like, what? And yeah, probably one of the most embarrassing times of my life, even though I was so out of it. My husband was just like, why do you do this? So yeah, that happened. So yeah, that wasn't awkward at all. And this is when she said to me, she was like, you're fully dilated, are you ready to push? And I said, yeah. And so she said, right, okay. She said, do you want to start pushing? And I remember thinking, yes, this is what I need to do. So from this point on, I think she left then and another midwife came in. And I remember saying I need to push, and I think I started to push and something wasn't quite right. They said to me, you know, you're pushing, but nothing's kind of happening. And they said, we're going to have to cut you, we're going to have to give you an episiotomy. And that's when I broke down, because I did not want to be cut. Obviously I didn't want to tear either, but they were like, you know, you're trying to push out this baby, you're not tearing, and, you know, we're going to have to give you a cut. And apparently this is when I lost it. I apparently started screaming, getting really, really emotional. I don't know if I was screaming, but I was really very like, no! And my husband, this is when he started crying, because he said that was the worst thing in the world to watch you get so upset over. You cried so much when they told you that. He said it was horrible to watch, so bless him. So in the end, I just had to give in, and obviously I didn't feel anything, but I got cut, and that is... I remember just pushing him out then, and I had a little baby. I think I remember them saying, the baby, we can see the baby. And I think my husband went down to have a look, got even more traumatised because he saw everything going on down there. And I think at this point I had two midwives. I had one obviously delivering the baby, the other one sorting out my bits. And yeah, I remember then, and they literally picked up the baby, wrapped him up, put him straight on my boob. But I just remember my husband sobbing. Yeah, I remember looking down at this beautiful, tiny little baby. He didn't cry, he didn't really do much, but what I do remember is that he was sucking his thumb straight away. And when I looked down, he had the biggest smile on his face. This tiny little baby, eyes closed, and he was smiling, so he came out smiling. And literally within like a few seconds, he put his thumb in his mouth, and he was just so peaceful. I remember the midwife saying, you know, do you want to know what it is? And I was like, oh God, yeah, what have I got? And this is a little boy. So I had my own little baby boy placed on me. I remember my husband, and he was sobbing. He was crying his eyes out that we'd had a little baby. I was like, we were just obviously this big bundle of an emotional mess. We were just allowed to like hug him for a bit, and she said, I'm gonna help sort you out now. I had the injection to get the placenta to come out of me. So yeah, that came out. I don't really remember doing anything about that really. I just remember her sorting it out to the side and then asking if I wanted to keep it, which I didn't. And then whilst the baby was on me, she said, we're gonna fix you up now. And she sat there and sewed me all back up, and I had lots of stitches, obviously because I had an episiotomy. And then after that, they took the baby off me and they weighed him, measured him, and afterwards, so it turns out that he was born at 8:15 a.m. on Thursday the 3rd of January, so a day early, and he weighed 6 pounds and 15 ounces. I remember her asking me, she was like, do you know what you're gonna call him? And we were just a bit unsure. He was like, oh, I really wanted a different name, one of our other names, and in the end he was just like, you need to have that name. He said, after what I've just watched you go through, you have that name. He's now called Didier Lewis, and he's absolutely perfect, and it's making me really emotional, and I can't believe I'm gonna go through all of that again in a few more months. So guys, I know that is a really long-winded story. I do have a habit of just going on and on and on. I will be doing another video on baby number 2's delivery, arrival, and I can't wait to share that with you all. So thank you very much for watching. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and thank you for being here. I would love it if you could give this video a like, leave a comment. It would really help support and grow my little channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!